Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we've got play props here on a Thursday for you guys. 5 games to choose from tonight in the NBA. We've also got best bets up in a separate episode. So make sure you are subscribed to that channel and continue to follow along with us all season. Also want to make sure you know tomorrow, Friday, is the email newsletter coming out on thelines.com. We've got everything you need to know there. So make sure you are signing up with the link in the description of the video here. That'll make sure that you stay on top of all the sports betting news that we're bringing you each and every day. And we also have the bonus parlay. Nate and myself are bringing that to you every Friday, putting it only in the newsletter, keeping it out of the episodes, little bonus pick for you guys in there. So make sure you check that out. 3-0, up almost 4 units there between the 3 bets. So we'll look to keep it going with some plus money heaters for you guys. Let's go ahead and get into today's stuff, Nate, and jump into your first NBA play prop.
Yeah, it's possible that Zach LaVine doesn't go here, but because he sat out last night for personal reasons, but it was at the last minute. So it's possible he was just like, look, let me get some rest because I want to be a full go against my former team. So I'm betting him, with a little bit of a ladder look here, 23 plus points, 3 plus threes, or 25 points, 2 plus threes. Either way, you're at like plus 120 or a little bit better. I think he's gonna look to go off though against these Bulls, who are also on a back-to-back now. Not going to have any rest advantage. They're not going to be particularly good defensively as they have on the perimeter, I will say. But LaVine, yeah, if he is angling for this, like I will just say, FYI, for what it's worth, his first game against Minnesota after being traded to Chicago, he had 35 points. He had a 43% usage rate. So it's possible there's some internal discussion that like, look, let me go off against these guys who he said, he's still close with, still likes him. It's not like there's a lot of bad blood here. Like he wanted to get out of there at some point, but you still want to show up against the former team. And look, no Sabonis, added usage for him, shooting 55% from deep without Sabonis this year. He's shooting 68% from deep his last 4 home games with Sacramento, averaging 29.5 a game, 5.5 threes. He's hit 2 plus threes in 13 of his last 14 games with this team. So I think adding a couple threes with his standard props point is why we're still getting plus money there. I think that's a pretty safe bet. This is a Bulls team that has allowed the 3rd most above the break threes in March, and have they been lucky? Have they been good? I mean, we'll find out. They've only held opponents to 30% on the road on those above the break threes. I don't know how much of that is who they've been facing. LaVine has been sniping, like I said. They've also been crushed on the mid-range, pretty much the worst team in the league guarding the mid-range. So he can get his points in a couple varieties here. They have allowed Chicago the 5th most fantasy points to shooting guards post All-Star break. A lot of that is getting Kevin Huerter in there. Not a good defender. And maybe even Giddey plays on the second leg of a back-to-back. But either way, Kobe White carrying such a huge load on offense, Trey Jones too. Like these guys are not stoppers. So if LaVine wants to go out there and have himself a night, he definitely can.
Yeah. If he wants to, like you said. So let's see if he plays. If he plays, yeah, this is probably doable. If we're thinking about like matchups, there's no stopper out there, and he has been the beneficiary. We should keep looking at that. When another team has a couple good defenders, they're going to go on Monk and they're going to go on DeMar, and the third guy is going to be on LaVine, and that's a really, really, really good third option. And what is best for Zach LaVine? Hopefully he understands the pecking order, which I think he does, which will help them be a cohesive unit on offense. But he'll still get his, man, because he'll get some really nice matchups if they make it into the playoffs through that play-in. But let's go back to that Golden State game here and take an under. I'm taking a couple unders in this game. I'm taking Scotty Bonds under 28.5 PRA, minus 105 on FanDuel. And like we've got to follow everything that we've been seeing so far from Scotty and just keep going with it. The minutes are down. We know Toronto is not playing their guys more than really 26-ish minutes. But the thing is, they've had to cap their guys when they're playing worse teams. I think you're going to see both these teams match backup units, essentially, is what I'm coming down to. So even if Scotty plays 28 minutes tonight, still have him looking at about 26.5 points, rebounds, and assists combined. The thing that scares me is the Dubs are vulnerable to assists. They're vulnerable to rebounds as well from guys that, well, mostly the center. But I think we're going to see Quentin Post start on Pirtle, and then that will leave Draymond to be able to guard Scotty Barnes. Plus, you're going to have Kuminga, who was not available in their last matchup either. Neither was Draymond. Scotty did big things in that game because Wiggins was guarding him, and nobody else was really available to help on defense much. That was a pretty bad starting lineup for them in that game. I believe they had to throw out post. They didn't even throw out post. I'm sorry, actually. So they just didn't have a center for most of the time, other than TJD, who was in the stretch of his like minus 11 average on the court per game that he was going with his plus minus until they sat him. So they're much better defensively now. As we know, that defensive rating has gone way down into the top 5 since they got Jimmy Butler there. That's another big part of this, is having somewhat of a free safety look for him, the way that they're able to now put Draymond on the guys that are a little bit too big for Jimmy, and then have Jimmy be a free sort of free-for-all on defense, and able to sort of pick up guys like Scotty if they're ever in trouble, right? As well as able to switch off of Scotty's guy. I don't think he's gonna be able to find a mismatch. He's not really even hunting a mismatch. In his last 5 games, his usage is all the way down as well from what it was on the season. We're looking at it at about 26%. In these last 5 games, going down to 21%. IQ missed one of those games as well, and he still is averaging about that 21% usage rate. So I just don't see the involvement for him. I don't have like a ton of numbers other than the Dubs are really good at defense. Scotty's being limited as long as his team isn't a threat to win the game. He's pretty limited there. So we're pretty good with him going under on the 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
Yeah, might want to look at the over on the turnovers too. 5 turnovers in consecutive games against good defenses here on the road. And it's another situation, where like you might get benched against these bad teams, but that's also where he's producing, right? I mean, over against Utah, Washington, Utah again, and then under against Blazers and Suns with plenty of turnovers. So the Dubs are even better defensively than those guys, and especially with Draymond at the back line. Let me take the over guy though. Take Keon Johnson here because ain't nobody left for the Nets. 17.5 points and rebounds, I think, is the best play here. He has double-digit points, 7 straight without Cam Johnson. Actually, prior to scoring just 1 against Charlotte, Cam Thomas was in that game. His last 6 without Cam Thomas, Keon's averaging 16.7. Last 8 without Cam, 16.9 points per game. So obviously don't need much help from the rebounds on that, but getting a lot more opportunities, shooting 44% from 3 without Cam Thomas in the lineup on 8 attempts. The last 3 without both, the Nets actually won those games, which, I'm not following that pattern because I'm taking the Pacers -8 here, but Keon in those games averaged 17.76 rebounds, played 31 minutes a game, with just one of those guys out, or actually both of them in the lineup. He is coming off some nice games, 35 PRA against Atlanta, 29 against Boston. So it could be a little PRA ladder here if you do want to get bullish with it. I mean, I'm not expecting him to go off though. But it's a good enough matchup for him to get the core prop for sure. Pacers do allow the most points and fantasy points to small forwards in their last 8. They allow the 4th most rebounds per game overall in that span. And Keon has actually the best rebound chance rate on the team in March, averaging 5, grabbing 8.5 of his 8.2 chances. Cam Johnson's been in the same range if you look at the average rebound distance as Keon, getting 10.6 rebound chances. So really just stealing them right away from Keon. And I think, he'll be able to grab more boards here tonight with Johnson out.
Yeah, I like where your head's at with him too. I think he's going to be forced to play on that wing a bunch more as well to be in good position for those boards. But he is the guy, honestly, at times that's just like, all right, go get us a point, go get us a bucket, Keon Johnson. That's kind of where this Nets team is at. So his usage should stay super duper high as well without the cams around. Let me close it out with another under. Do what you will. Not everyone's going to want to go under on Steph Curry. I totally get it. I'm just going to keep playing the way that these teams are playing. Like, I'm going to keep betting the way that they're telling me they're going to play their rotations. And for Steph, my biggest thing for Steph is he's genuinely not okay, man. He would have definitely wanted to play in both the Dubs, the Nuggets, and the Bucks games if he could. They have rested him on a lot of back-to-backs, but they've also played him on a good number of them this season as well. So it's not like it was just a season system play that they sat him against the Bucks. He was genuinely hurt, which was illustrated in his 6 for 21 field goals that he put up there against the Nuggets, a team that he should be able to score on. Christian Brown wasn't even playing in that game, so he wasn't being guarded by anybody that you'd be too worried about. So I just don't think he's fully Steph right now, and you're playing a team that's actively trying to lose and making sure that it doesn't win. It's like making sure it doesn't win, right? That's a huge addition to the tanking process for them is in the midst of a game that they will take their guys out. So for Steph, I project him for 32 minutes tonight. I just don't think he's going to be running around trying to hoist up shots the way that he was against Denver. What we've seen in the games that they win by a good amount from Steph is that he is willing to dime up a bit more, and he is willing, with Jimmy out there, to be a lot more of a facilitator and a little bit less involved and just sort of be the guy that draws two guys to him and then allows the defense to be imbalanced from there so they can go 4-on-3. If you look at the last game they played, he had Davion Mitchell in him. Way different situation, way different lineups, but he had Davion Mitchell on him. He doesn't really have anybody that he's going to be looking at being like, okay, I need to make sure I score on this guy. He'll get buckets as they need them, but it's mostly the rotations being tweaked. And Kerr has shown versatility. So if you look at a couple of Steph's game logs here, if you go back and look at a few of the games where he's been, they've sort of played him 30 or fewer minutes. They're winning against the Kings by 20. He comes out and doesn't really play the fourth, ends with 30 minutes. They're only winning by 10 against Portland. He got a couple extra minutes in the fourth quarter because Portland started to come back in that game. So he ended with 34 minutes, right? But then you look at a couple of the games where they won and they didn't need to win. They didn't worry about too much, like the Hornets twice, right? The Mavs. These teams are teams that he's playing 29, 30 minutes against because he just doesn't need to be out there for 34 to 36, like when they're playing teams that they have to win against to make sure that they get the good playoff seed where they're third right now and they still want that win. So the way that this bet gets tanked is that the Raptors stick around and Steph is forced to come back out in the fourth quarter or forced to, at any point in the game before the fourth quarter, shoot more shots. I just don't see that to be the case. If you look at him against bottom 10 teams in the league since the second half of the season, he's averaging 29.5 minutes per game. So that's the stat that I'm using here to then just move forward with this bet for the under for Steph.
Yeah, I'll trust you on the health factor because you did see him live recently, and you could definitely tell how he's doing. I'm also looking at Jimmy Butler from this angle, though, as in terms of like when the Dubs are going to coast, how is Jimmy going to play? Their last 26-point win, he took 5 field goals, had 7 dimes. So like under 17.5 points for Jimmy. And then you do the negative correlation where you get 4 assists, 5 assists, 6 assists, whatever the book gives you. And you're at like plus 120 to plus 250 on that kind of combo. I think that could hit as well. Especially, if Steph's out there, at least, like it just opens everything up for him, whether it's Steph draining threes or not. Like that's what Jimmy does. I mean, he's got 6 dimes in 5 straight now, and he should be diming up while he's out there.
No question. Jimmy Butler assists is a look that I was kind of keeping to myself. I'm sure other people have noticed that his potential assists have absolutely skyrocketed to 18 per game. No, 17 per game now because he only had 8 potential. Still got 6 assists against the Nuggets. Other than that, in his last 5, man is absolutely destroying here. I just want to make sure I'm giving you the right number. I think it's still 17. Excuse me. It's 16.4 potential assists per game in his last 5, and he's got a 5.5 assist prop against the Raps. Yeah, man, that's a really good find too. I completely agree with that. Going a little negative correlation, just take the assist for sure. You're getting close to even money, and then I do like the idea of him not needing to score and watching those guys do it for him. So that's all the time we have for you in this one, though. Definitely trying to stay on top of what's going on in the NBA in March here. Find those angles that make sense down the stretch with tanking and everything. But hope you got something out of the play of props, and make sure you are subscribed to check out the other best bets that we have with looks at sides and totals for you. So until we see you next, happy betting.